the process or the flow of the payables. So this is how we're going to go on for this particular demo. Let's start. So this is the basic process of the payables into the Oracle NetSuite application. So the process actually starts in when you have a purchase order. You've put up a purchase order. Now, since most of the organization or almost all the organizations work on the workflow basis, that means there is an employee who creates creates a purchase order or provides for a purchase requisition. Then the superior approves the requisition or approves the order, and then that particular order or that particular purchase order comes into existence. So this is how the workflow in most of the organizations go. So what happens is into the NetSuite application, or let us not talk about the NetSuite application. Let us talk about the normal working of an organization into the in considerate with the payables, means in consideration with the payables. So what happens is one employee creates the purchase order, then the superior approves the purchase order. The same purchase order is then mailed or sent to the vendor. The vendor then, depending on the purchase order, the items, etc., based on that, the order is actually shipped from the vendor. We receive the order. Now, this is the next operations part of my payables, or let's say of the purchase workflow. So next is I receive the purchase order. That means whatever the order was placed, I have received the items into my warehouse. Now, once I have received the items into my warehouse, the next part is, just a moment, please. Yes, I'm so sorry. Now we have received the purchase order into our warehouse. The next part is, once I have received the order, I have matched it with the purchase order that was placed and sent to the vendor. I've checked upon the items that have been received, and everything has been done. And now I suppose that no returns have to be placed. That means I haven't got anything that wasn't asked or wasn't put into the purchase order. The next is I am going to create a vendor bill. So I will create a vendor bill. I am going to create the vendor bill based on the invoice that I have received from the vendor, and I'm going to create a vendor bill into the NetSuite application. After the vendor bill has been created, the next part is, either I am going to that even after creating a bill, I have the option of returning the items. Let's say even after getting the invoice, I have also created a vendor bill, and now also I have that window where I can still go and return the order. But still now I do not want to return the order. Vendor bill has been created. The final part comes is with the payments. So now once I've created the vendor bill, I've received the invoice, the next part is I am going to pay for that particular purchase order, or either it is going to be standing into my payables. So I can either review the aging, I can monitor, analyze, create alerts for that. So these are the other options. If I'm not going to pay for that vendor bill, these are the other options that I'll be looking at. That means I'm going to review my API agings, I'm going to monitor it or analyze, alert, all these items I'm going to, all these things that I can actually do with my do with my vendor bill that has been created. So this was the basic process or the workflow of the payables into the NetSuite application. So almost all the parts of the NetSuite application payables has been taken up into this particular process. Now, in order to get a better understanding, I've just divided the whole payables part into 3 small steps in connection to the NetSuite application. I mean, what do we do into NetSuite application? So for the payables, there are basically 3 parts into the NetSuite application. I've just divided it for a better understanding. One is the purchases. Next comes is the vendor bills. And next, the third part is the payments. Now, what happens into the purchases is I'm going to create a purchase request. It will be approved. It will be turned into a purchase order. Then it will be approved. And the purchase order will be sent to the vendor, emailed to the vendor, or in any way the vendor is going to get the knowledge of this purchase order. I'm going to place it with the vendor. The vendor is going to acknowledge it and will provide me with the order that was asked in the purchase order, and I'm going to receive it. Now, receival is the next part after the purchase order that I'm going to perform an action for into my NetSuite application. After the purchase order, the next action that I'll be taking up into the NetSuite application is the receiving the purchase, receiving the order. Now, once I have had an item receipt created into my NetSuite application, next part is I'm going to get an invoice from the vendor. So I'm going to create a vendor bill. Or even before creating a vendor bill or after creating a vendor bill, I have the option to return the order that I have so received from the vendor in case it does not fit as per the if it does not fit as per the items that were requested. I have received certain defected items. The items are not what as per the quality that I had requested, or maybe there may be various reasons due to which I am going to put up a return. So I'm going to the employee is going to put up a return. This whole payables part works on the workflow basis. I would request everyone to please mute yourself so that it is easier for others to also understand. Otherwise, it is going to create a disturbance. Thank you so much. Yes, so I was on returns. So even after the billing also, I can create returns into the NetSuite application. Now, once I have put up a return to the vendor, I am going to ship my products or ship the items that I have received back to the vendor. Now, since a bill has been created, I am going to create a vendor credit. Now, vendor credit, for the people who do not are not very much apt with this vendor credit into functional, what happened into a very simple language, vendor credit is, let's say there is a vendor from which I have purchased items. I've now have created a bill also. What happens is at certain times I may return the order. So that means that particular amount is still standing into the vendor or the supplier's account. So that means the supplier owes me something. There is certain amount that the supplier owes to the company. So what happens is company in turn of getting a refund, maybe in cash or in bank, due to the regular transactions that happen with that particular supplier or the vendor, based on that basis, what does the company do is it creates a vendor credit. So that means that particular supplier has certain amount which he or she or that company owes to the organization. So whenever I'm going to place the next order or something, it is going to adjust it. Let's say there was a vendor credit of $15,000. Next time I've placed an order for $10,000. So I do not have to pay for that $10,000 amount. It will be adjusted with the vendor credit. So even after placing an order for 10,000, I have 5,000 standing into the vendor credit. Next time also I can place an order for $5,000 for which I will not have to pay it specifically. It will be adjusted against the vendor credit that has been created into the NetSuite application, or which is there into the application. So now we are done with the vendor bills. So next comes is the payments part. Now into the payments part, I've just provided full payments into this. Into the payments part, one is the very basic is I'm going to pay the amount that is that I owe to that particular vendor. I'm going to pay the bill. Next is that particular payment is going to stand into my accounts payable for, let's say, I have a credit period of, I've been provided a credit period of 30 days, 60 days, depending on that. That particular amount is standing into my accounts payable. So I'm going to analyze the account payable aging report and all that. That is a secondary thing that I can do. One is I'm going to pay the bill. Next, it is going to stand into my accounts payable account. So this is, or also there is an option of payment hold into the NetSuite application. Now, what is a payment hold? We'll be taking up when we will move on to the NetSuite application. So this is the whole, the total flow of my payables part into the NetSuite application. Now, this is how we are going to proceed into our today's session. We'll start by creating a vendor. We'll see how to create a vendor into the NetSuite application. Then how do we have or provide or enter a purchase request? How do we enter a purchase order? Then we'll receive the order. We are going to create a vendor bill, or and from the vendor bill, from the items that have been received, either I'm going to return it and credit the vendor. The next is, if there is no return, I'm going to pay my vendor. Now, payment will be, I'm going to either pay I'm going to pay my bills, or I'm going to write a check in order to pay the vendor. So this will be the whole scenario for our today's demo session. So let us move on to our NetSuite application. So this is my NetSuite application. The payable, into the payables, the first thing that we will be taking up is, we'll see how to create a vendor. Let's say there is a new vendor that has to be created into the application. There is a new vendor with whom we had a purchase contract, and we'll be dealing with into near future. How do we create the vendor? Now here I have a shortcut for vendor creation. So in case if you would like to create a vendor into the NetSuite application, you can go to the lists, relationships, and you can find vendor and new. It opens the same form. So here I have my shortcut, so I can also click it over here. You can open the vendor form from here also. Changing on to the standard vendor form. Now this is the standard vendor form that is there into the application. You can customize the vendor form based on your organizational policies, based on the information, but what you would like to be mandatory, what you would like to be included into the vendor creation. So this is my standard vendor form. Now here I can actually enter the name of the vendor. I'm not going to create the vendor over here, so I'm just creating it. So this is just a name that I have provided. Now web address, if it is a company, they might be having a web address. Like here I can put www.bistsolutions.com. Category, if you've formed categories of vendors, like you've got categories of vendors for tax agencies, then you've got your printing, designing, contractors, consultants, production, supplies. These are the categories that have been created. You can actually select also the category. Now this is not an important or mandatory information, but you can just select it so that it is more informative. Now here a vendor ID is automatically taken up from the vendor name. You can also provide a vendor ID manually also. And you can select whether it is an individual vendor or is it a company. Then the basic information about the vendor, the email, phone number, any alternative phone number, fax ID. This all information you can provide over here. Now here, for which subsidiary you are actually creating that particular vendor. So you can choose the particular subsidiary for which you are creating that particular vendor, resource allocation approver, all that information you can actually provide into this. So this is any other subsidiaries. Let's say there are 2-3 subsidiaries who are going to deal with the same vendor. The primary one is this, and let's say you can include 2 or 3 more subsidiaries also if you want, who will deal with this vendor. So whenever I'll select a subsidiary over here into any transaction, this particular vendor will come down into the selection list. So you can select the various subsidiaries that will use this particular vendor in order to in order to create a transaction. Now this is the contact person, the primary contact person of the like if this is a company, so whoever is the general manager or any sales manager or any personnel that you have that you know, or who is the primary representative of this particular company, you can provide the details of that person over here. You can also provide for the communications, like any task, events, files, phone calls, all that information. You can include the address also here. Now here you can include the address. Let's say the shipping address and the billing address for this particular company is different. So you can provide for the shipping address and the billing address, 2 different address you can put over here if the shipping address and the billing address are different. So that means you can put the shipping address at the warehouse address, the billing address as the headquarter address or the head office address. Then all the marketing, subscriptions, financials, the legal name of the entity, the primary currency that we are going to deal with them, default payables account that we are going to use, default expense account that we are going to use in dealing with this particular vendor. What are the terms of credit if there are the terms of credit that have been provided? So what are the terms of credit? Any GST ID or any tax ID that has been provided or that is specific that is into this for this particular vendor, you can actually provide it over here. And if let's say this is not a new vendor, you are creating an existing vendor into the application, so you can also provide for that also, like this is an existing vendor. So what is the opening balance date, account in which it is going to reflect. So this is this information you can also provide. Then vendor bill matching, the currencies, if let's say into a contract you have had certain specific rates in which you're going to deal with this vendor, you can also specify that. Then the preferences, email preferences, if you would like to send certain attachment, what is the how do you want to send it, with the PDF format or just an HTML? When you are going to print a check, so what do you want to be printed on the check? So if you're sending certain transactions to that particular vendor, I mean, what are the past 1 year or 1 month or quarter transactions if you would like to send it in order to get in order to reconcile? So you can also you can choose what by which method you would like to, by which way you would like to send the the transactions, by email or print or fax. So this all information you can provide. Now it may happen that you can actually log this vendor in a sense that you can provide access to only specific employees, or you can actually set or manually assign or create a password in order to use this vendor. So whenever a person select this vendor, a password will be required, that whoever has the password can use this particular vendor. So you can in this manner you can keep a record or keep this creation of the vendor into your hand. I mean, whatever vendor that has been created, until unless someone has the password, only then an entry or a transaction or a dealing will be entered into that particular vendor name. Otherwise, that will not be possible. Then any other custom skills and expertise, bank payment details, the bank account number, etc. What are the all details that you would like to enter, you can actually enter over here. And once you are done, you can just save this particular vendor. And then this particular vendor will start appearing into your vendor list. Now here I'm not going to save it because I do not want to save this particular vendor. This was just for the demo. Now the next part, moving on to our next part of my, just a moment. Yes, so once I have created the vendor, the next is I am going to create a purchase request and or create a purchase order. Now it depends, you can create a purchase request also, or you can directly create a purchase order also, depending on how does your organization actually works. So in order to create a purchase request, you can create a purchase requisition from here. Now the purchase requisition and the purchase order actually depends on the workflow that you have into your organization. If you have most of the organization have workflows into the organization, that means one employee creates the request or creates the order, the other employee or the superior actually approves the requisition or the order. So in that manner, the requisitions and orders are created. But here, since I've logged in as an administrator, I have the option to choose whether I would like to I want it to be pending for approval, I want it to approve it, I want to reject it. So that is the reason here I'll be viewing the options of approval and rejection. Yes, so here is the standard requisition form. The requisition number is automatically generated. If you want to create any specific requisition number, you can also do that. A requester, it is automatically selected because I've logged in as the administrator. Receive by, you can actually provide the date over here, any specific date if you would like to add. Now this is the today's date, still you can change it. Any memo, this is just so that we'll be able to find it easier. Now the subsidiary for which I would like to create the requisition, that means the subsidiary for which I would like to order the item or for which the requisition has been created. Now after selecting the subsidiary, next is I can also select the class from here. Location, for which location I am requesting, I can select the department. Currency is automatically populated. Now here, this is the approval status. Had I logged in from an employee center role, I wouldn't be having this option over here. This option wouldn't be active. Now, since I have logged in as an administrator, I have this option active, so I'm just going to approve it. For the items, I can check on any of the items that I would like to order. Let me just change the item. Yes, so I would like 10 quantities, estimated rate. I can actually put over here like any rate you would like to put up, and you can just add the items over here. You can of course put up relationships, communication, custom, tax reporting, financial tax reporting, approvals, all that information over here. Relationships, communications, just now that we've seen into the vendors, it is almost the same. The custom, open and bills that you would like to attach. Tax reporting, the delivery terms, nexus, region of origin, in order, that is these are for the point of sale tax reporting purposes. Then you have got your approvals, project manager approval required, controller approval, bill distribution details, all that information. If you would like, you can actually just provide over here. So this is all the important information I have actually provided, and now I'm going to save it. So as you can see into the requisitions list, this demo requisition was the memo that we have put. This is the requisition that we have actually put up, and I am able to see it into the into my requisitions list. Now directly from here, moving on back to our application so that I'll be able to provide it to you. Yes, so now I have I have actually created a purchase request. Now directly from the purchase request only, I can create a purchase order. So as you can see, I have the option of creating a purchase order directly from this particular requisition. Now here the option is available because this particular requisition was approved. Had it been pending for approval, whoever was the superior, whoever was my superior would have to approve it, and then only this particular option would have been active for me. Now since this is an approved requisition, I'm going to create a purchase order directly from here. So the only information I have to put is at the time of the requisition. The rest is I can actually directly create a purchase order from this. Here, if there were various I can select the subsidiary, I can select the vendor, all that information I can actually just select. Just a moment. What am I not selecting? Okay. Okay, just I will have to close this and I'm going to open this again. Yes, so this was the requisition that we have created. I can directly go from here and create a purchase order. From here, I can directly create the purchase order. So this is the subsidiaries I have selected. I have selected the vendor. And I'm going to submit it. So as you can see, I have submitted my requisition. So that particular requisition by the vendor name has been submitted. And now I can actually go back to the purchase order list and view that whether the requisition for which the purchase order I have created has been created or not. From here only, I can actually change all that. I do not have to go back to the transactions. From here, as you can see, there is purchase order, item receipt, payments, purchase contract, everything I can actually view from here. From here only I can check it, and from here only I can actually view it. Now let's say since this was a purchase requisition, in most of the organizations what happens is at the time of workflow, and in the workflow what happens is most of the organizations they may not have a purchase request options into their organization. They directly because of that of whatever information, whatever the relationship that they have with the vendor, they directly place a purchase order. They do not have the purchase request requisition part of the vendor creation workflow, and they directly create a purchase order. Now in that manner, let's say a purchase request wasn't being created, I would like to create a purchase order. So I can actually create a purchase order directly from here. This is my standard purchase order option that I have over here. The information is almost similar to what I have into my purchase requisitions, where I'll select the vendor name, any memo that I would like to provide, approval status. If I have the option as pending approver, I can select whoever is my next approver as. Then the purchase contract, if when you select the vendor, you'll get a purchase contract. Let's say I would like to create a purchase order for the vendor, this particular vendor. Yes. So the purchase contract, if there is for for this particular vendor, it is going, I will get it into the list. The employee name, received by, again the date, subsidiary, it has automatically populated based on the vendor selection, department, class, location. Then if it was an intercompany transaction, in case it is an intercompany transaction, I can use the paired intercompany transaction. Now this is when this particular tab is used when I am having an intercompany transaction, the way that two of the subsidiaries, let's say there are two subsidiaries, take any of these subsidiaries, there is Australia and there is US West. So let's assume that US West and Australia had a transaction with each other. In that manner, this particular tab, that is intercompany management, will be used because there is no third party involved. There is an intercompany transaction between two of the subsidiaries of your organization. So this particular tab will be used. Now the currency is again automatically populated. Exchange rate, you can specify if this is not your reporting currency. You can provide for the exchange rate, maybe the current exchange rate, the average exchange rate, whatever the exchange rate that you would like to provide, you can actually just provide over here. You can select the item. any item if you'd like to select, you can just select the item, add it, and any other expenses also, if you would like. Let's say along with this item there are certain expenses that will be incurred. Let's say there are certain miscellaneous expenses, there are certain expenses that will be incurred, maybe a commission, some kind of commission is attached with this item by for ordering this item. So I can attach that expense also over here, and I'm going to then save all this information. The billing, relationship, communication, these tabs are same for all the requisition orders, etc. that I have, and I'm going to save it. So the purchase order, as you see, have been created. I haven't provided a memo, so this is the purchase order that we are going to view. This is the purchase order that we have just created, and I forgot to add a memo to it. Now the next part, now I have created a request also. I have created a purchase order also. Now the next is vendor creation, purchase request, purchase order we have seen. The next part is I'm going to receive the order from my vendor, whoever is the vendor for which I have put up a purchase order, put up a purchase requisition. I will be receiving the order from that particular vendor. Now since this bill is already open, I am going to directly click on receive, and I'm going to receive this particular purchase order. Yes, so this is my item receipt form that I have. This is the standard item receipt form. Now here the only thing that I'll have to select is the location. The rest, everything is automatically populated because it has been created from a purchase order. And I'm going to save it. Moving back to our purchase orders. Now, as you can see, the status for this particular order has been changed to pending bill. Now I have received it. The next part is I'm going to bill for that purchase order, or now there are two options. Either I'm going to return it or I'm going to bill it. Also, I can return the order after billing also. So when I'm going to view it, as you can see, there are two options, or rather three options that are active for me. I can bill this particular purchase order, or let's say after checking into the warehouse, the quality was not satisfactory. There was a certain defected goods that I received, or maybe due to any reason, I can return also, or I can bill also. Now let's say there wasn't any as of now until this time. I do not find anything defective, or I do not find the quality that I cannot accept. So what I do is I just bill this purchase order. So I'm going to bill this purchase order. I'm not returning it. I'm billing this particular purchase order. Now, as you can see, every information that is there has been automatically populated over here. Now, this is a customized form. You can again customize a form for billing depending on your policies that you have into your organization, depending on whatever information that you would like to include over here. So every information is provided over here. I'm only going to change the approval status. Now, as there was an into the payments, I at the time of the flow that I had informed, into the payments, there is an option of payment hold. Now, how does payment hold actually works? What happens is, let's say into the terms of the payment, or maybe into the terms of the dealings between the vendor and your organization, there is a mismatch. They are not in harm. That means the dealing is not in harmony. You do not get along, and hence what you wish is, you would like that I do not make a payment to this particular vendor. until and unless the payment terms or the dealing terms, the contractual terms are clear on both the for both the parties, and then only a payment should be made. So there are two options for you to do this. What you do is you keep this particular bill as pending approval, and when the terms are clear, your superior or maybe you only, since you if you are an administrator, you can change the status to approved. When you're changing the status to approved, when a bill is actually approved, it shows up as a candidate for payment into the payment bill option, that is pay a bill option that you have. Into that, this particular bill is going to show as a candidate for payment. But when you try this particular method, what happens is you do not create a GL impact for this particular actions. GL impact is anyway there is certain amount, like into this particular option there is an amount of 1200 that you owe to any third party, to any party, to any vendor. You owe $1200 an amount to any outsider. So an GL impact should be created for this particular action, for this particular transaction. A GL impact should be created. Paying or not paying is a secondary option, is a secondary thing, but into primary part is that you create a GL impact so that this particular transaction affects your general ledger. So in that manner, the best practices says is book all the vendors with the approval status as approved, so that the general ledger impact is immediately marked. The immediately marked, that means there is a general ledger impact created. In that manner, what you do is you just check on the payment hold option over here. Now when you add or check on this payment hold option over here, is a GL impact for this transaction will be created. But until and unless this payment hold option is not unchecked, or this payment hold option is still there into this particular bill, it is not going to show you up into the payments option. Now since this bill is not open for payments, you will not be able to pay it. This is on a safer side done, is because since you've got hundreds or 200 payments in a day that you're going to do, it might happen that if you do not check up this particular payment hold and you think that let me just approve it, create a GL impact, and I'll remember it, I do not have to pay this particular bill. But since everyone is human, you might miss on this particular bill. So it is a better option that you check on this payment hold button. So until and unless the terms of payment or the contractual terms between you and the vendor are in harmony, this particular bill will not be paid. So here you can actually check the payment hold option. I do not want to hold the payment for this particular vendor as of now, so I'm unchecking it. The approval status is approved, and all that information of the terms, I can still select the credit terms that have been set with the vendor. I can actually select it from here, and all that information that was important I've provided for that, and I'm going to save it. Just a moment, I haven't provided the serial number option over here. Yes, so now I'm going to change the, yes. So I'm going to save the bill. Now I have saved the bill into my option, or what is there is I have saved my particular bill into my NetSuite application. So now, as you can see, that particular bill is fully billed, and now the option says is that my particular bill, the status shows is that particular bill has been actually billed, fully billed. Now the next part that comes to my particular for my workflow is, the next part that comes into the workflow is, now I have the option to return it, or I have the option to either pay that particular I'm going to pay this particular bill, or I am going to actually just make it it depends on whether I have to return it, or I have to make a credit for that particular bill, or I'll have to pay it if the payment hold option is not checked. So moving on to our next option, as we see into our slide, is that the next is returns and credit. So coming back to my purchase orders, the option says is it is fully billed. Now the next part is I still have the option to return. Now let us assume I would like to return this. So the authorized return part is still applicable to me. It is still visible to me. I still have that active into my purchase order. If I would still want to return this particular purchase order, I can click on the authorized return, and the item return received is going to open with me, and I'm going to fill up the details for the shipping, the open air bill, or the amount, the kgs, the etc., the whole information about the the product that needs to be returned, and I'm going to return it to the vendor. But here I'm not creating it, but let me just click over here so that we know how does it actually looks into the application. So I've clicked on the authorized return. So this is the standard vendor return authorization that I have into my application. Again, this is also customizable. You can customize it depending on the options that you have. So this is my standard vendor return authorization. But now into the vendor return authorization form that I have is the status is not as the other forms that I have, that is pending for approval, approved, or rejected. Here the status that I have is pending for approval or pending for return. So that means if I have any approver, that is any superior that I have who is going to approve this particular vendor return or return, that is vendor return, I'm going to keep it as pending approval. If I do not want, or I am the ultimate approver, as I have logged in as an administrator, I am the ultimate approver also, so I do not want it to be pending for approval, I'm going to change the status for pending for return. So that means when I will save it, the next option that will be available for me will be return, and not pending for approval flag will be added up to my vendor return, to the status that is shown into the purchase orders. So here I have changed the status to pending return, and any other information if I would like to put up, I can put up also. But here I do not want to create the vendor return authorization, so I'm just canceling it. Moving back to our flow, the next part is the vendor payments. Now the sorry, so the next part is the vendor payments. Now this part for the purchase orders is done. The next part is the vendor payment. That means when I have to pay this particular bill. Now since this particular bill has been this purchase order has been fully billed, the next option that I have is I am going to pay for this particular bill. I would request to please mute yourself. Okay. So yes, this is the bill payment option that I have, the bill payments page. Now here, I'm going to select the accounts payable account, whichever accounts payable account for which I would make to pay payments for. The account, when you select the accounts payable account, these are the accounts, the bank accounts for which from which I can make the payments. So I'm selecting this. Balance will appear over here. Posting period, subsidiary is automatically selected when you select your bank account. Start date, end date, so that you can filter your bills from which date to which date bills you want to view, so that it is easier for you to pay. Any department, class, location, also you can filter it based on this information also. Now, as you can see, this is the bill that we have created. This is the bill that we have just created for $1,200. And this, when I check it, I can make payment for this particular bill. Now from here, let's say maybe into after the the billing was done, everything was done, I got a discount of 200. So when I provided, the total payment comes down to $1,000. But no discount or something has been provided, so the full payment has to be made into this particular bill. And when I've selected, I can select as many bills for which I would like to make a payment for from here. But here we are selecting this particular bill that we have created, and I am going to save it or make a payment for this. So this is the process. So the status is complete. This is just an NetSuite script error. The process has been completed. Now moving back to our list of transactions. So this is the bill that we've just now paid. Now, even after making a payment also, you can void the bill payment by clicking this void button. If you would like to void a payment of the bill, you can actually void a bill payment also. Now, voiding a bill payment is that means null and void. When you make a payment null and void, you can create it directly from here into the bill payment option. You can select on void, and that particular payment status will be shown as void. Now here, as it is shown as this is the status that it is showing. I can see the account. If I would like, I can also void this particular payment. Now, as you can see over here, this particular bill payment has been voided. So the flag says here is voided. That means this particular payment has been voided. That means the payment has been made null and void. But here, and in order to void a payment, you can click on the void option that is available over here. So this is how you can pay a bill. You can also write a check for that particular payment if you would want. If you want, you can also write a check for any payment that needs to be made into the for any particular bill. Now, since we have paid that bill, so we cannot create a check as of now, but you can directly write a check also for any payment that needs to be done for any expense, for any item, or to any vendor. From here, this is the standard check format. You can of course customize it. The number is generated when you print it. When you print the checks, the numbers are automatically generated. The account, you can select the list the pay list from here, whether you would like to pay to your vendor, you would like to pay to any customer, maybe any payment refund you would like to have to any customer, you would like to pay to any employee or someone, you can just pay it. You can select the pay from here. So let's say I would like to have a payment made to, I'm selecting anyone, any particular name. You can select any pay, you can select the amount. You can actually provide over here whether you would like to pay an expense to that particular customer, vendor, or your employee, or you want, the payment is in for the items. You can select over here and you can create a check. Now here, when you select the to be printed option into the checks, the to be printed is, that means when you save this particular check, it will fall into the line of to be printed. So as in when you print the check, the number will be generated. That means the check number will be generated. If you uncheck this button, so the option that will be available to you is save and print, so that you can actually print the check as and when you have saved it. Rest all the information that you have over here is exactly the same as it is into the other forms. So you can also write a check for any payment that you need to do to a vendor, or you can of course write checks to customer, to maybe employees, or your partner, maybe your associates. And the check can be written for anyone in case if you have had a payment that needs to be made to any person or any organization. So almost all the things that we have into the vendor payables or the payables, we have covered it over here. These are mostly all the things that we have into our payables, where you can create a vendor, you have your request, you have your orders, you receive the orders, you create a bill, or you can return any particular order that you have received, credit the vendor for the bill that has been created. You can then pay your vendors by bills or by check. You can directly pay it, as in pay the bills, or you can write a check to the vendor for payments. So in today's session for the payables, this was all from my side. In case of any queries or something, you can of course put up. Sorry, excuse me. Anyone who's had any queries or certain questions regarding the payables,